You know that Big Bargain detergent jug is 85% water, right?
85% water? I thought I was getting a better deal because it's so big.
If you want a better clean, Tide Pods are only 12% water. The rest is pure, concentrated cleaning ingredients.
Ooh, pass me the intercom thingy.
Attention shoppers. If you want a real deal, try Tide Pods.
Don't pay for water. Pay for clean. If it's gotta be clean, it's gotta be Tide Pods.
Water content based on the leading bargain liquid detergent.
Ha! I cannot believe I did that. So sorry. Anyway, I just went through all this introduction and you couldn't hear anything. See, the problem with my mouse is, excuse me, whenever I click, it sometimes registers as a double click. And I was not able, and it looks like it registered as a double click, so it actually went from mute to on to mute. I'm not going to redo the introduction. Let's just get right into it. So where we left off here is we can move around. It's enforcing where you can go. You can pick up stuff. You can go here and activate it or deactivate it to change the color of it. And that's all fine and dandy. And we also built a tool. Let me see where this was left off at. This tool allows us to zoom in and select it, and it'll tell us what the row and the column is. So one thing that I do want to change up a little bit here is, if you've ever played Dwarf Fortress before, you have that standard tile set that we've been using the whole time, but there is a tile set that I like better. And the website, you can get to it, I will leave it in the chat, is you go to Krug, with 2 G's, smash.com/tileset. I'm going to drop this in the chat here real quick. And what we're going to do is, this part is optional. You can 100% skip this if you like, but I find this one to be a lot easier to work with. So in here, just click the download the complete package. We can put that here in the downloads folder, I suppose. And I already have it downloaded, so I'm not going to re-download it, but then we can open it up here. Let me pull it up here on the side. Yeah, then go ahead and unzip it, and then you can Krug Smash here. Then there should be a data folder, and then an art folder, and then from here, you want, that's not the right one. One moment here. Let's freshly unzip it. Yes. No, stop it. Just gonna delete this one and have it redo it. So it doesn't seem to have all of them for some reason or another, and I'm not sure why it wouldn't. Maybe that's not the complete set. Let's try it again. Downloads. Delete this. So I'm not sure why we're not able to get our hands on the 16x16. I will come back to that. We'll skip this for now. Once I'm able to figure that out, we'll go back and get it corrected here. Because I was able to find it inside my actual playthrough, not the playthrough, but the actual Dwarf Fortress files. But anyway, let's just continue with how we have it. So figure what we're going to tackle next is GUIs. Now, GUI, there are 1,000,001 ways to do GUIs, right? Again, I'll preface that everything that I'm doing here is not the best way to do everything, obviously. But this is not going to be some high-end GUI framework. This is pretty simple because Dwarf Fortress has a very simple user interface. Well, depends on how you define simple. It's very simple, but it makes the game somewhat complicated. But that's kind of also what I like about it. But anyway, for the purpose of being able to just have my mouse off and all that, just while I'm going to turn off the camera, and then I can vape and have all sorts of caffeine and whatnot. So, one moment. Alright, much better. Excuse me. Okay. So I think the way we want to start this is we need to have a new folder in here, and we'll just call it GUI. And then in here, we'll create just kind of a base abstract class here. Well, maybe it won't be abstract, but just something that we can inherit from as a GUI item here, because there's going to be a lot of things that these share. I'm going to make it public. We need one to track if it's visible, and one if it's active. And there's a way to just create a constructor with this. Yes, cool. And then this will have a public virtual void update, world passing game time. Game time. Public virtual void. Oh boy. Butchered that spelling. Virtual void. Raw. Like that. Game time. Game time. These aren't going to do anything, so we can pretty much... Oops, we can just close these off. Just so we have a structure to follow. Should we actually mark this as abstract? Yeah, I think we should. Let's do it. Okay, so the first thing that we're gonna make is we need a menu for, you know, when you start up the game, you have your splash screen. Wrong project. It has that splash screen, but then it goes straight into the game. Especially when we start getting into things like pathing, it's going to be nice to have separate screens that we can set aside for just kind of testing. So this way we have this mode, which is the actual game, but then we would have an area where we could specify that, okay, we want to go from this point to this point, and then have it advance frame by frame as to what path it would take, just for debugging and getting an understanding of the pathing system. We will not be doing pathing in this episode because there's a lot of GUI work that we need to get put up in place here before we can really get started on that. So let's start off by creating a option set. So within the GUI folder, let's create another one, and we'll just call it controls. And let's add a new class for it. We'll call it option set. And the goal is to keep these fairly lightweight and not really doing a whole lot of work. Just because personally, I think it's better to keep it somewhat generic. Just so that we can... One moment. Just so that way we can kind of have the screen, or maybe we'll build some kind of controller for handling these, doesn't matter, is in charge of what it does. This is basically just as... The GUI items will only do what's absolutely bare minimum necessary. So we need a few things that we have to track about this. So we need a list of the options. So we'll make a private string array. We'll call it options. We need to track what the current index is, and then we'll just default that to 0. Oh boy. Index equals 0. We will need a base position that is going to be drawn at, and then every item will have to reflect this, and thankfully vector math is fairly simple. We can just add the two vectors together to get their offset on where they should actually physically be drawn on the screen. So for now, we need we'll just make that one public. Vector 2, position, and we need the sprite font. Sprite font. And we will load that from the global game reference. Content.load. Sprite font. Resources /SDS. I believe it's underscore. Oh yeah, it's right here. SDS underscore 8. Perfect. So in this one, this one is just kind of the base constructor, so it's going to call the base one, but we also should have we just make options. Yeah, we just leave options as null, I suppose, because we don't ever want to use this constructor, but we'll leave it in there for now. We're the ones consuming this, so it's not like we're developing some third-party AI or third-party library that we have to add all these guard clauses and everything to. And then we'll allow being able to specify what the options are. You just call it base here, save on some lines of code, active, and then options be equal to options. And just for the ease of use, we can also do a list of string, since it's pretty easy to work. Sometimes easier to work with them. And then that just becomes toArray. Okay, so now we have a way to specify what options are in there. We'll need the ability to increment and decrease and, oh boy, increment and decrement. Is decrement a word? I think it is. We're gonna make it a word. So public void increment index. And we'll do public void decrement index. And this will just simply increase or decrease. And we're going to need some events that this is going to raise. So we can make, but we'll need some event args that we have to supply those. So GUI this GUI somewhat framework that we're building is going to make use of event args. This way it kind of feels like we are just consuming something from WinForms, or at least give it that appearance. So let's make a new folder in here. We'll just call it event args. And then for the event args, we just want, let's name it explicitly so it become the option set event args. And the method will determine what's actually happening with it. Event args. Minus. Make it public. And it needs to inherit from event args, but there will be, we can't have the namespace in event args, so it's just going to remain in GUI, or else we would get an error. And this is going to be pretty simple. So public int. So what's the current index, and what's the string value of that index? So we can do a public option set event args, and actually use the tools that are given. There we go. Remove all those unneeded using statements, and let's make an event in here. It's public event handler, option set event args, do on index changed. Then we'll need another one for when it's selected. On item selected. Okay. So now we need to create our overrides here for both the update and draw. I think we can just go down here and do generate overrides, update and draw. Alright, so we don't need to call the base implementation. There's just nothing there. There's no need to. Same for draw. We'll just add in it. If it's not active, we obviously want to return, do nothing. And then the same thing for if it's not visible. So this way, if it's not active, it'll still render. But if it's not visible, it'll still call the update. So that's kind of to call out the difference between the two. There might be instances where that's valid, you know, especially if maybe you have the menu and you're selecting an action, and then you want to keep drawing it, but you don't want being able to press up and down to actually have any type of impact. Okay, so within update, we want to check, so the input manager that we built, manager instance is input action input action dot down. So this will just call the decrement However, we do want to check something here. We want to make sure that when you press down, that if you can't go any further, you shouldn't be able to go any further. Since down is on the y-axis, it would be plus. So we want to do, so if the current index plus 1 is greater than or equal to the options.length. I mean, it should never go beyond that. But within here, we want to return. Otherwise, we'll call... Actually, that's an increase. We want to increment, because down is positive. We'll do the same thing for up. And the difference is here, we want to subtract 1, and if it's less than 0. Then we will decrement. So that should be enough to handle. Now we want to be able to draw it. So we'll do for int I equals 0. I that's less than options.length. And we'll just increment here. I plus plus. Sprite batch dot draw string. The sprite font. Options for the current index. Then we want to take whatever we specified as the position, and position by default will just be set to vector 2.0 maybe. We'll set that up a little bit later. So it become position plus vector 2, 0, then we want I times global.tile size, because it'll take up 16 tiles. And then we want a color for it. So I think what we'll do, yeah, so if the current index is equal to I, we will do the color white, so that means it's being selected. Else it'll just be color.gray. I suppose I should maybe zoom in a little bit for you all. I apologize if that was hard to see. We'll just have that. So that should be enough to actually draw everything. Yeah, let's test it out and let's see if we can actually change the selected index. So what we're going to need is a new screen. So within our screens, let's create a main menu screen. And then within here, this will inherit from screen base. And then we'll implement it. And this order is going to drive me nuts, so let's fix it now. And we do not need to throw not implemented. Okay, so then within here, how do we want to do this now? So within the screens, thinking here. So within the load content, we want, yeah, we need an option set. So let's add that in. Here are these extra using statements. We'll add them as we need them. So we'll have a private option set that we created. Let's call it option set. And then we will do option set. Yeah, it'll be visible and active. And let's just make a list of strings here that we can pass in. And let's have play, path finding, or pathing maybe, for when we start working with pathing, and exit. Okay. And we need to set the position We'll just set it at vector 2, 0 for the time being. We'll come back to it and tweak it a little bit. We're not going to subscribe to the events yet because we're not currently raising them. I just want to make sure that our option set calls update correctly. Oops. Update. I probably should move this out of the screen code. I can't think of a time we wouldn't want to be updating the input manager. Instance dot. Yeah, we just call update and pass in game time. So I'm kind of wondering if I should pull this out of the base class, and then all we do is just call base.update. That might be something that we go back and refactor. Alright, yeah, so that should work for now. And then we need to start the sprite batch. So sprite batch begin. We're not going to have any matrix transforms in this. Let me do a quick mic check here, one moment. Test. Okay, that sounds good. So now we just want to call the draw method on it. Option set.draw. Pass in the sprite batch and game time. And then inside our main game class, we will, instead of splash screen, call main menu screen. Well, let's fire it up and see if it works. Seems to work, but I can press up. Oh yeah, and it doesn't increment it. Okay, so that looks good so far. Although I think I should be clearing the background here. Yeah, I think so. I have a feeling we're going to run into issues if we don't. So we got game reference, graphics device dot clear, and the black background color dot black. Alright, so let's modify the position a little bit. So we want to kind of somewhat sort of center it. Obviously it's not going to be perfect, but as long as it looks a little bit better, I think it's fine. So what's the best way to do this? Do new vector 2 globals dot game reference dot graphics device dot preferred. Oh, I think it's just dot graphics. Do we not have that? Oh, it's not public. Okay. Okay, so now I should be able to do graphics. Graphics. No, I still can't. Why not? Does it just need to be built? It should just be dot graphics. Oh, I can't seem to access it. Inaccessible due to production level. Oh, duh. Just because I capitalize it doesn't mean it's public. Okay. Dot preferred back buffer width, I believe. So dot preferred back buffer width. We'll divide that by 2. I think we want to encapsulate this. And then let's do -5 times globals dot tile size. And then let's pull this down. I'm zoomed in quite a bit. Then the next one, we'll declare down here. So globals dot game reference dot graphics dot preferred back buffer height. Divide that by 2, encapsulate it. And then we'll subtract 5 times globals. So we'll try the same thing. So now it should draw a little closer to the center. Yeah, it's not too bad. I think we need to move it over just by 1, actually. And then it looks fairly centered. Not quite. Maybe we'll leave this one at 5. I don't want to get hung up too much on it, but in any event, that all works. There's nothing... We need to subscribe to the events, though. But first, let's figure out how we should raise the event. So within the option set class, we will invoke this... Yeah, so when it changes... So yeah, when it changes, we should check what the original index is. So let's do original index is current index. So this way we're capturing what it is when we've started. We'll let all of this code do what it's supposed to do, and then original index isn't equal to the current index. Then we know it changed. So we can do like on index changed dot invoke. We'll just pass in this. So the sender is just going to be the option set, not the individual selection. It's going to contain event args. The option set event args that we declared, and the index will be current index, and then the text will just simply be the options and current index. So now that should invoke. Now we need to subscribe to it from the main menu screen. So we should probably do that in the load. Well, first let's create the method first. So we'll have public void on index on option set index change the object sender, and then it will be the option set event args set event args. We don't have GUI? Oh, GUI.controls. That was stupid. Whatever. We'll live with it. And then that will become, yeah, just the event args. And let's just use the console to confirm it does what we expect. On change. And we'll do args dot index text the args dot text dot right line. Because I want to make sure this isn't firing off a whole bunch of times. Oh yeah, I didn't subscribe to it. So option set dot on index change plus equals on option set index change. And then in the unload method, we want to make sure we unsubscribe to it. Alright, so we have subscribed to this event. Speaking of subscribe, if you're watching from YouTube, be sure to hit like and subscribe. Anyway, now this should work. Yep, okay, so now it went to pathing. It's on play, pathing, exit. I can't go further down. Alright, cool, so that seems to be acting the way we'd expect. So now we need to do something similar for when the actual action is invoked. So within here, we can just do something like input manager dot instance dot is input action dot select. We'll do on item selected dot invoke this new option set args, and really it's just the same as these. And then since we're doing these checks, we're making sure we're not going out of bounds, so this should never throw an exception or cause an error. I mean, it can, but it shouldn't. Now we need to also subscribe to that within the main menu. I don't want to write to the console anymore on that. I think we've proven that works, so public void on option set selected item. Option set event args. And dot on selected item. And let's do the same thing here. Make sure selecting is worked. On select. Yep, pathing, play, exit, exit, play, pathing. Cool. Yeah, that is working as expected. So let's set these up to actually do stuff. Oh yeah, we need to unsubscribe from it too. So now, I mean, technically we don't need to be subscribed to the selected index change. I suppose there's no reason to. It's just using up memory, because we're not going to actually change the index, but at least we know it works. Because the only thing we care about is what they select. But I can see that being something we need to be able to listen to, is when it just simply you hover over something, basically. So within here, how do we want to handle this? I guess we'll just do the text value. That's probably not a good idea for a permanent solution, but just for now, I think that's fine, because we're just getting the proof of concept going here. So within here, we can just check the text value. Equals play. That would never be true. We will do screen manager dot instance dot change screen, and we'll do a new overworld screen. If args dot text equals pathing, go to pathing screen when we make it. Equals. And then finally, we can implement the exit. And we should be able to do that by doing globals.gamereference.exit. Okay. Let's see if that worked. We'll try exit. Oh, we'll just click this first. Yep, nothing happens. Yep, exit closes out. One device not closed. I'm not sure what that means. I'll have to spend some time digging through that. But now, when I hit, it should go to the game. Perfect. Yeah, so now we have a main menu set up. It's nothing fancy, but it's a starting point. Okay, so for the next item, I think we should. We're not going to get to pathing. That's not going to happen in this stream. But I think we could at least get the pathing screen created and get some basic tools for it. And we'll create another item, or a GUI item, which will allow us to select tiles. So I think that would be okay. Okay. Yeah, I need to just step away for just one moment. Be right back. Alright, we'll make this, it'll be under a minute. So, one moment. BRB. think I did that. Let's keep it under a minute. Let's continue. So let's create a new screen, and we'll just call it the pathing screen. Pathing screen, and that of course will inherit from screen base. We'll make it public. Rearrange some things. Okay, so now that we have our pathing screen, let's remove these. How should we do this? Okay, we're gonna actually, this is actually a good opportunity to make use of 2 cameras actually. Because typically that's how you would have it work, is when you have your game, and if you had an overlay of some sort, you would have 2 cameras, one specifically for looking at the world and one for looking at the menu. Kind of like a HUD or whatever. Maybe that's not the right word. Okay, so let's get 2 cameras going. Camera 2D. Call this one world camera. Call it camera 2D, and we'll call this one GUI camera. Okay. Within load content, let's create a game map the same way that we would do if we were creating just a regular world. We'll just give it a random one. New game map. Oops, not that. New game map. Let's do 100. We can make this one larger. Then we'll set our world camera. Let's do globals.gameReference.graphics device. And we'll set that to be at a zoom of 2. Now we need our background camera, or GUI. I'm getting ahead of myself there with background camera. I will speak to that here in a moment. New camera 2D. Game reference dot graphics device. And let's set this one to a 3. So before we get too carried away here, I think we need to change the size of the screen a little bit. It's gonna be way too small. So I'm not sure what's really considered a good size screen by any means, but yeah, we'll just change it on the front end here. Wow. Main game, there we go. So within here, I'm going to do graphics.preferred back. Oh boy. Graphics.preferred back buffer width. Set that to 1280. We'll do graphics.preferred height, and we'll set that to 720. This is the dimensions that I use in a game that I've been working on for a while, and it seems to me I personally like it, but I'm not sure if there's any drawbacks to doing this. So let's see if that worked. That did not change the size. Oh, that's right. You have to do graphics.apply changes. Yeah, so you have to actually physically apply them before you can move forward. And it still didn't do it. Oh, I did it in the wrong spot, that's why. I need to be doing this inside the initialize method. And then base.initialize. Well, let me see, do I need to actually set apply changes? Yes, I believe I do. Yeah, that works. So far, so good. Looks fine. Alright, now that we have that out of the way, we need a way to... let me pull up the game here real quick and I'll show you what I mean. So, as I walk through the world here, there's going to be a menu up here where my mouse is. But the problem is, we don't want any of this showing. We need a way to kind of black this whole top area out. So this way we can start adding various controls to it. So let's get that going. And we're just going to create a texture on the fly for this. So if we go back into the pathing screen, this actually might make for a good GUI item. Yeah, because it's kind of like a GUI background. Yeah, let's do it. Let's create it in here. This will not... I don't think this should inherit from GUI item. Yeah, let's make it. I think everything that's in here should. I'm talking myself out of it. I'm going to shut up now. So we have GUI background. And then within the GUI background class, we need a rectangle, and this rectangle will just simply be a rectangle that we use to block things out. Since the background is already black, we should be covered on that front. So we'll start off by inheriting from this GUI item. We have a few things that we need to bring in. Move all those. So that we have a public vector 2. Use framework. Let me see what time it is. Okay, I still have time. Vector 2, and this will become position. So this is its raw position. And we need a rectangle. And we'll just call it rect. And then we need a texture 2D that we're going to build on the fly. And we'll call it pixel data. So then within this constructor, we'll just say positions. If we don't specify any of this, we'll just set it all at 0. 0. The rect will just become an empty rectangle. Rectangle.empty. But we still need to set the pixel data. I mean, is there really any point to doing it that way? I think we just set it anyway. So we have pixel data, new texture 2D, and this is just creating one on the fly. So you can just create a texture by giving it various inputs. This is going to just simply be one pixel, but then the rectangle will expand it out. So we need to give it the graphics device, so global.game reference.graphics device. 1 and 1, it's just one pixel, and then we need to set the pixel data. So pixel data set data, we need to specify it's a color, and we need to give it a new color array, and simply color.black. I think gen texture. This way at least we can just call it gen texture, so we're not doing this twice. We need an overloaded constructor to specify the position. This is the only one that really should be used. Position and then rectangle. Instead, these just become position. And then we set the data. So now we need to override. Wait a minute. I don't want it to implement iDisposable. Generate overrides. There we go. Update and draw. So within update, there really is nothing to update in here. Maybe we offer some abilities here. And let's do the same thing. So if it's not active, just return. And then same for this. This one is applicable. And then really the only code is just draw it, and that's it. So within the draw method, we'll just simply do sprite batch.draw. The pixel data, which is our texture, the position, the rectangle, and it's going to be color.black. Maybe we'll allow us being able to specify the color at some point, but for the time being, I don't think so. It's just gonna be black. There really isn't much benefit in this game in particular, but it might be good to just do, just so there's proof of concept. Yeah, we need to make this public. So let's add this to the pathing screen. Yeah, let's set the GUI background. GUI background. Include GUI. So now we want to set the background. So let's do that in here. Yeah, GUI background, true. I think I need to make defaults for these, this way we don't have to specify them every time, but we only call it out whenever we initially want it to not exist. So we're just going to set it at vector2.0. However, the rectangle itself is going to be what's going to take a little bit of playing around with to see what we can find that's going to work. But let's go ahead and just get started. So rectangle, it's going to be at 0.0 and 0, and now we need to specify the size. So for the width, we can actually use the preferred back buffer width. So we can do globals.gameReference graphics preferred back buffer width. So this will use up the full screen, which is what we want. And then we can just use a hard-coded value here, because this is how far is it going to go down. Let's do 200. And then in here we will do GUI. Well, we need to actually start the sprite batch up. So there's going to be the map that we've generated. Okay, let's make sure we can draw the map and do something with it. So we can do sprite batch. Oh, wait, we need to clear it out. So globals.gameReference.graphics device clear, be the same color as the background. So let's draw, yeah, because we want our GUI to be drawn absolutely last. So this way it appears on top of everything. So let's do sprite batch.begin, sprite sort mode deferred, blend state.alpha, I believe. Yes, alpha, sampler state dot point clamp. These can be all null until we get to matrix transform. And then this will become the overworld or world camera, and then get view matrix. Format this out a little bit differently. Sprite batch.end. And then now we can draw the map. So we'll do globals.map.draw, and we'll just pass in the sprite batch. Let's be sure that that part is working. Oh, I suppose I should make it actually switch. Main menu screen. This will become pathing screen. Okay. It's creating it. So now we need the ability to have kind of like a selector. Yeah, let me reload this again so I can think this through. So pathing. So it'd be good if we can, yeah, build something that's a selector, and then we can just freely move the camera around. I mean, the camera will just be looking at the selector, and then anytime it selects something, it can display some data up in this part here. But we need to get the GUI camera portion working too, though. So let's make sure it covers up the screen a little bit. Pathing screen, jeez. Okay. So let's copy this here. Except it will be the GUI camera. GUI camera. We'll call end on it. And then within here, we'll do GUI background dot draw sprite batch and game time. Let's see if that covers up part of it. It is not. Let's see. So we don't need to call update on it. There's nothing for us to call update on. Maybe this just isn't large enough. That could be it too. Ah, that's it. Yep. It just wasn't large enough. So let's make it a little larger. Let's do 300 maybe. There we go. Yep. So now let's add a selector. This will be definitely a GUI item or a GUI control. And this will be a reusable selector just because we'll have a selector obviously for this screen because we need the ability to poke around and look at what certain things are. But also there'll be a mode where you can look at things. And we'll basically reuse that exact same thing. So let's find a good texture to use as a target. So let's set this as a startup project, launch it. You know, I think just an X is fine. Yeah, so that'd be at position 8, 5. We'll go into our globals and let's create a copy of this one. And we'll just call it large X. And then that is going to be at 8, 5. And close this out now. So that's at position 8, 5, and we'll create a new GUI item. I think it belongs in controls. To me, I think that makes sense. So we're going to put it in the controls. We got to make sure we correct the namespaces on this. So this will become overworld selector, I think is good. It's overworld selector. Yeah, I think that should be fine. Within here, make this public, and this inherits from GUI item. So what we need to know is the row and column. So we can make this default constructor will just set the row and column. So let's make a public int row, public int column. And I don't think we need any private access to these. We should be able to just set it at will. So let's create a constructor with that as well. We'll just call the base one here. And then now we're setting the row and the column. Okay, so that looks good for now. Now we need to implement the update and draw methods here. Oh, come on. Not constructor. Overrides. I used to always type these out by hand, and then I kind of dawned on me, like, Visual Studio has a lot of fast ways to generate code for you. Okay, yeah, so this will do the same thing. So if it's not active, just return. Input manager, I got to bring that in. Instance dot is input action input action dot write. We will increment the column. So we'll do column plus plus. We want to do the same thing for moving left, except the other way. Down, and then that will increase the row instead. Then up will decrease it. Then we might want to add some kind of blinking, so this way it's not just drawing over everything, but I think that should be fine for now. Yeah, now we just need to draw it. We'll do the same check here if it's not visible. Visible, just do a return. So we'll do sprite batch.draw, asset manager, .instance, .texture. It's the only one texture for the game. We'll do, we need to have an actual position, but this position should never be set directly. This should only have a getter. So we'll do a public vector2 position, and this should only have a getter, and we will return vector2 the column times globals dot tile size, the row times globals dot tile size, and then yeah, we can, based on just incrementing these, we should be able to just do the position on the fly. So then let's make it, oh yeah, we have to specify the new rectangle, so rect dot large x. Let's do color dot yellow. Light golden rod yellow. Oh, why not? Let's see what it looks like. Okay, so now we can create a reference to this. Or remove you too. That's going to create some build errors, but that's fine. I don't feel we need to have it called out explicitly that GUIs and controls. So let's create a create a reference, overworld selector. And we will want to new this up. We'll just put it at the default of 0. I think that should be fine. Overworld selector, true. And we want to call update on it. Oh yeah, we also need to call the input manager. Dot update passing game time. So did I accidentally? Okay, I did not. Good. I thought maybe I was calling this update method within there, and that would have been really stupid. Okay. So now we want our world camera to just look at the position. And when we call update, that should automatically handle whether the row and column is at. So that's good. And then we want to draw this not over the GUI, but over the map. So we would do overworld selector dot, draw. Okay. look at. And then it'd be the overworld selector dot position. And that might be enough to get it to display. Yeah, that's right. I removed the namespace, so I gotta remove this. Let's go back to where we were. Cool. Yeah, I don't like that color, but let's do a different yellow. Let's do a greenish yellow on it. No, I don't like it. Just do yellow. Okay, we'll go with that. So now we have a selector. We'll need the ability to, what you call it, have it detect what it's selecting. It'll display in this black box up here. As you can see, if we go up here, we can go beyond the map. There's no issues with that. As we move around, there is this black section up here where we will be putting various commands, details in regards to the tile that we're looking at. We'll have a command to set a starting point, and then we'll set it to do a end point. And then there'll be a sub-menu within there that will allow us to draw the path it's going to take, and then we can advance it one by one. So this way we can have a clean way to debug and set up pathfinding. I am not the greatest at pathfinding, so I just personally think that it's easier to explain it when I myself even have a visible representation of it. But otherwise, I think that should do it for now. Let's see, how long has this been going? Okay, yeah, it's been going on for a little an hour. I don't want these to be too crazy long for YouTube. So yeah, I think that this is it's in a good spot. We can call it here. I'm not going to make any promises on when the next one will be or what we're going to do next, but I will aim to be a little more consistent in the programming related ones. I understand not everybody's a fan of watching gaming. They want to learn some code related items, and mine is fairly niche related stuff that you would make, you know. So hopefully my goal is that somebody just Google something incredibly oddly specific, and then they're able to find a video on it, which kind of draws it out directly. And then they can use their own implementation of it. So I think that's all. So if you are watching from YouTube, be sure to hit like and subscribe, and goodbye for now.